Back at Logical Reasoning Drill Set number 8 over at lawhub.lsac.org, we're ready to move on to number 4. We've got our highlight tool still ready to go, and we're going to read the question stem first, which states, which one of the following principles, if valid, provides the strongest support for the inference above? So when we're trying to support with a principle, we're just really looking at a kind of fancy strengthen. So I'm going to have to read the information on the left, identify the conclusion, highlight that conclusion for clear reference, and then find an answer choice that broadly, kind of abstractly supports the conclusion presented on the left. So we'll begin from the top. For millions of years, the spider Latrodectus mactans has possessed remarkably toxic venom. Because much weaker toxins would still be fatal to all of the spider's prey, no evolutionary advantage results from the extreme potency of its venom. Therefore, it can reasonably be concluded that the extreme toxicity of Latrodectus mactans' venom is genetically linked with traits that are advantageous. So the conclusion should probably be rather apparent. It's following the therefore. It's just this statement that because this toxin that's really venomous and really potent is fatal, it doesn't have an evolutionary advantage, which means that it has to have a genetic one. So I know I'm focused on these concerns of not having an evolutionary advantage and needing to have a genetic advantage linkage in the answer choices. So we're going to focus on those details and start with choice A. If a trait that is disadvantageous is preserved for a long time in a species, the traits with which it is genetically linked are probably advantageous. This is subtle, but we don't say that this is a disadvantageous trait. We simply said there's no evolutionary advantage. So just lacks advantage doesn't mean it is disadvantageous. So choice A for that single little prefix of dis allows us to eliminate it and not worry about it any longer. Then choice B, a trait that neither hinders nor helps survival will probably be extinguished if it is genetically linked to traits that are disadvantageous. Again, we just established in choice A that we cannot state anything about disadvantageous pertaining to the extreme toxicity of this spider's venom. So for the same reason as choice A, we can eliminate choice B. Then choice C, all traits that are preserved for a long time in a species are likely to be advantageous. Well, again, we know that there isn't really an advantage. It seems to not have an evolutionary advantage, which means, according to the conclusion of this author, that it has to have a genetic linkage to advantageous traits, but it doesn't mean that this trait itself is advantageous. So we can eliminate choice C, again, as not directly supporting that specific claim. Then choice D, a trait will probably not survive for long in a species if neither it nor the traits with which it is genetically linked are advantageous. Okay, well, we know this trait does not have an advantage itself. And we find out that if it's not genetically linked, it's probably not going to hang around for a long time. And you may say to yourself, survive for long, is that stated? Well, it says for millions of years. I think we can agree that it would be a long time survival. And so it really is about this idea of being genetically linked as necessary. So choice D does provide broad support for that conclusion. And then we move on to choice E. Only those traits that survive in a species for a long time are likely to be advantageous. Again, we don't need it to just be only those traits that survive in a species for a long time to be advantageous. And even if that was the case, it makes it seem like it doesn't have a direct linkage to the genetic linkage with the traits that was stated in the conclusion. So you really have to key in on that genetic piece, focus on the details, and you'll be able to address harder answer choice or harder questions such as number 4 in an efficient manner when you practice your own LSAT prep test.